It is taken beyond the laboratory into communities where learnings, ideas, and experiences are shared and new possibilities emerge. That's why, with the motto Engaging Communities, Enabling Change, India Bioscience strives to foster the Indian life sciences community, providing a platform on which academia, government, industry, and the general public can engage at various levels. Workshops like Crafting Your Career, skill building workshops, and grants awareness programs can help you navigate the life sciences ecosystem and plan the next steps in your career. And our podcast and webinar channels, India Biospeaks and India Biostreams, involving a diversity of topics and speakers, open doors to the areas of education, research, funding, policy, industry, and the wider scientific landscape. In pursuit of creating and curating excellent and relevant resources for life scientists in India, India Bioscience extensively partners with experts, agencies, and institutions, both national and international, bringing to you a vibrant community where new possibilities take shape and develop. Dive deeper into all this. Stay updated about jobs, grants, and events, the latest cutting-edge research in the field, the stalwarts at the helm of the field, and the lives of the people behind the research. Share stories, engage in the rich culture and find out how you can help change the world. Explore India Bioscience. Stay engaged to enable change.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, which is part of the Crafting Your Career online series. Today's session is going to be on professionalism, role models, mentors, and careers in facility management. Could I request one of the other panelists to just confirm that my audio is clear?
Yes, Shanta.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's get started with this session today. Just a brief note before we get started. This session is also available via the YouTube live stream link and the India Bioscience website. Both these links, you can see it on your screen, and they'll also be shared with you via the chat box. And so with that, let's go over a few ways in which you can participate and interact in today's session. Firstly, at the start of the session, I request you to kind of check your audio and your speaker and microphone settings. So this will make sure that you don't have any audio disturbances during the rest of the session. And moving on, there are three ways in which you can interact with us in today's session. The first is the chat box, where you won't be able to type or share your messages, but we will be sharing relevant resources and links. So do keep an eye out on the chat box throughout the session today. The next is the raise hand button. So you can click on this button if you wish to ask a question. And during our question and answer session, I will invite you to come forward, unmute yourself, and join in the session today. And of course, there's a third way in which you can participate, and that is via the Q&A box. And here you can submit any questions that you have, which we will then pose to all the speakers in today's session. You also have an option to send your questions in anonymously if you wish to do so. And finally, on the top, you can see there's a box, a button that says view options, and this will help you toggle between a full screen viewing and the original size viewing. So with this, I think we are equipped to start today's session. A quick note about today's session. So this knowledge broadcast session targets students and science professionals with the intent to increase the general awareness of good practices while navigating one's career path. Please note that this session will not provide any models or templates, but instead will present good practices that will enable students to prepare what best fits their requirements. And importantly, this session does not aim to tell you students which career path is best suited for you, but hopes to facilitate and empower students in making well-informed choices for themselves. So on the screen here, you see those of us from India Bioscience team who are joining you in today's session. I am Shantala and I'll be your host for today's webinar. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube, welcome. Manjula will be moderating the session there. Please do make sure that you send in your questions and participate in today's session as well. And my colleagues Shreya and Smita, you'll be hearing from them later in today's session. And we are very happy to be joined by two guest speakers. The first is Nirpendra Singh, and the second is Mohammad Atif Alam. And you will hear more about them and from them in today's session, little later in today's session. And thank you both for joining us in today's webinar. And with that, I'm going to launch a short audience poll. So for those of you who are joining us on Zoom, you will see an audience poll pop up on your screen. I'm going to let this, it's a short audience poll. I'm going to let this run for about 30 seconds. And this is just to help us understand who you, the audience, is who's joining us in today's session. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube, Manjula will be sharing this audience poll, the questions in this audience poll in the form of a Google form. So we will be getting the information about you as well. So I request everyone to participate in this audience poll. It's just, I think, 2 questions. Basically, who are you and what are you looking for moving forward? So I'm going to let the audience poll run for maybe 5 to 10 more seconds. And then, okay, so I'm closing the audience poll now. And you should be able to see the results. For those of you joining us on Zoom, you should be able to see the results on your screen. So the first question was, I am one of the following. So to get to know which stage you are in your scientific career journey. And so we see the majority, so an equal split, 27% and 27% of you are students who are doing your bachelor's, as well as 27% of you are PhD students. We see a close follow-up with 25% of you who are doing your master's. We have a small proportion of educators, some researchers, and about 5% of you who say you fall into the other category. So we're very excited to have all of you in today's session. Welcome. We hope that you find it useful. Moving forward, the question was, what would be your top career choice moving forward? And a striking majority of you chose, 82% of you chose researcher as your next step in your career. And then after that, there's a bit of a mixed bag. So we have about 40% of you who want to be educators, 32% of you who want to be science communicators. So here I should highlight that you could select as many options, which is why we have quite a wide proportion across the border. We also see we see 9% of you want to be core facility managers. So I think you're going to find the session with Nirpendra and Atif very helpful. And we see 40% of you data analysts, 7% of you others. So as I said, the distribution is really widespread. Among all the options, people have selected all the options. So welcome to all of you. I hope all of you across these different kind of career paths will find this session useful. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Shreya. So Shreya, over to you.
Thank you, Shantala. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, Shreya, all good.
Okay. So, hi and welcome everyone. So far in our sessions, we have spoken about how to explore different career paths, how to assess and prepare yourself for applying to jobs. And today we thought we would do something a little different and discuss some principles that would help you no matter what career path you choose. Because you see, your professional development does not end once you get a job. It's an ongoing process, and learning how to practice professionalism is one very important aspect of that. So, what is professionalism? One definition of it, which is given here, is the combination of all the qualities that are connected with trained and skilled people. So that is quite broad and might sound like a tall order, but actually it is quite easy to learn how to cultivate professionalism. So let's discuss some of its key aspects. Well, there is competence. This means being good at your job and also learning new skills, building your knowledge so that you can meet the growing needs of the workspace. There's also reliability. So being dependable is an extremely well valued trait. And for example, when you have a deadline, you stick to it, things like that. And just as important as keeping your commitments, it's knowing your limits and not over promising. So that helps you maintain that reliability. Accountability is important. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's extremely important to own up and take responsibility for your mistakes. Similarly, if a mistake is, let's say, made by somebody who's working under you, you should understand and admit to your role in that error instead of simply throwing them under the bus. Respect. So your colleagues, your clients, your supervisor, your juniors, they will be from all walks of life. And it's important to maintain basic respect when during all your professional dealings. And this includes not just people who are senior to you or whom you are working under, but also people who are working under you. Then there's etiquette. So your workspace might have a specific working style, or let's say a protocol, like let's say there are specific work timings or ways of answering the phone or addressing outsiders, etc. It's good to respect these whenever they're applicable. Demeanor is very important. Simple politeness and honesty and collegiality often go a long way in establishing a professional atmosphere. So you should also cultivate your ability to remain calm under high pressure situations. This is going to come in very, very useful no matter where you go. And finally, there's appearance. This will depend upon your specific workspace. So let's say if your organization has a dress code, then you can follow that. Or if there are certain safety regulations related to how you dress, you should follow that. And in general, it's a good idea to maintain a neat and clean appearance overall. Now, professionalism is distinct from work ethic. And one of the simplest definitions of work ethic is a belief in the moral value of work. So it's the faith or belief that the work you're doing is good. It's providing some benefit to the world. It's satisfying your personal set of values. And that's what leads to the work being both morally as well as professionally rewarding. So what does having a good work ethic mean or look like? So it means being professional. So everything that we just discussed. It also means upholding honesty and integrity in all your actions. It means being productive and being consistent in your productivity and organized in the same. It also means cooperating with others and working with a team for the common good. And finally, it means taking pride in your work and remaining motivated in tough situations. So, a person with a strong work ethic is often preferred over maybe a more brilliant but someone who's less committed candidate. This also leads to more satisfaction and joy derived from your work, which, let's face it, is the whole point. And it's therefore important to actively work towards improving and maintaining your work ethic. So, for learning both professionalism and work ethic, which we discussed, a very important resource would be your mentors and your role models. And to discuss this in more detail, we will hear next from Smita.
Hello. Are you audible, Shreya?
Yes, Smita.
And my slide is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Shreya. Welcome everyone. It's a pleasure pleasure to have you all. And like always, I've been saying, we definitely miss that face-to-face interaction with each one of you. But regardless, I'm sure some of you would have been joining us in our Crafting Your Career online series so far. And we have touched upon various different tools which are important while navigating the career path, various different tools. And this is one of the last, as part of our CYC module. It's the last but not the least. I guess role models and mentors definitely play a huge role in our in making this journey really beautiful, enjoyable, and fulfilling. So let's understand very quickly. I will not take long. I'll be again very brief because we have two speakers who will be talking about facility management. But let's understand what do we mean by role model and what we mean by mentors. So role model is basically a person, you know, anyone who's had an exemplary life and whose behavior, example, or success is usually emulated or can be emulated by younger ones, or I've written younger ones, but it can be even elders. They give us guidelines of values, and by values I mean various different things that make our life very fulfilling. It can be what Shreya just mentioned. Someone might be really, really good at work ethics. Someone might be really good in terms of dealing with their co-workers. There's an endless list of values. So they give us this guideline of values and thereby actions that one can follow. And now, what do we learn from role models and why they are so important? We basically learn the characteristics of these people and learn their qualities and actions that they take. It can be any action, the way they negotiate, the way they deal or present themselves, or the way they deal with their own career trajectory. There are various different actions that one can again think about. We can also learn how they overcome challenges. And this is one, I feel personally, this is my personal opinion, but one place where role models really play a critical role, because each one of them also have had faced various different kinds of challenges in their lives. They help us stay motivated regardless of the circumstances that they are facing. They teach us how one can remain motivated. Definitely each one of us end up making mistake and we feel that it's the end of our lives. No, it's not, because and that's where role models come handy. You can learn from them that how did they deal if they made a mistake. Other thing that we learn is how to make a best version of ourselves. What is really important here is that you do not copy the role models as they are. You need to learn from them all these various different qualities that they have, and then build your own unique personality. And that's very, very critical. So that's about role models. And I guess these two are my role models. I thought I'll just share why I feel they are such amazing people. I read Wings of Fire by Abdul Kalam when I was in my PhD. And that's when I felt that, such a humble person from such a humble background rose to become where he was. He became the president of the country with such amazing career trajectories. It's not that he never had failures. There were a lot of failures. There were, very challenging situations. But what is to learn from him is persistence, hard work, and remain grounded to your roots. And the other person, Indra Nui, a very courageous and confident lady, and that's something I've always admired about her. So this is what you learn. You keep reading about them. You keep looking for their talks or their writings or their books, because that's what motivates you. That's what helps you to learn or deal with various different situations. So that's about role models. Quickly moving on to mentors. Who are mentors and how are they different? So mentors are someone who are experienced and with whom you interact to learn more about various different things. and most importantly, someone you can trust. Very, very important. Mentors also help you grow your network and give you the right advice at the right time. Other important thing to remember is that it's not necessary that your role models is or are your mentors as well. They can be completely different set of people. It's also possible that your role model and mentor is the same person, but there is a difference, and I'll come to that very quickly. And the difference is that this person is someone you are in direct contact. Unlike your role model, you usually don't get to meet and talk to this person. It's just that you hear or read or learn about through the various different media sources, unlike your mentor. So, what is this mentor mentee relationship? Very, very key to understand that it's a genuine and it's a professional relationship that gets established over a course of time. It's not that you can make an unknown person your mentor. You can, provided you have reached out to this person with very clear cut points. Otherwise, usually this is a person whom you have known through your professional network or personal network, but you have known this person over a course of time. And again, important thing to learn is that if you excel, so it's your performance and your potential which really helps you seeking good mentors, because they also watch out for what is there in you. So very important to excel in order to get the right mentors. And definitely this requires investment of a lot of time and energy from both ends. It's not that once established it will just go on. It's an ongoing process where you continue to stay engaged so that the mentor is aware of what's happening in your life. Again, it's not a daily interaction, but mentor should understand you as a person and what you need from your life. That understanding is very, very key, and that's why I said it's a very professional relationship. But it has also been seen that some of these relationships develop into more of a friendly relationship over a course of time. Again, very important that you listen, you ponder, you think what the mentor has given you as a piece of advice, not that you blindly follow that advice. And again, very important that you have a good diverse range of mentors, because not necessary that your different needs, let's say related to your personal journey, related to your career journey, professional journeys, can be taken care of by one mentor. So it's always good to have this diverse range of mentors. Also very important to keep a lookout, and once you have found your mentor, maintain that relationship. And by maintaining, I mean stay in touch and convey your progress, your success, your failures, and what you want in life. So with that, I would end, and if there are questions, we are happy to take it, else we move to the next session. Thank you.
Thanks, Smita. Before we break for a question answer session, I think we'll have a quick audience poll to capture the presentations that just went by. And
Right.
this will also give you a few minutes to those of you who have questions to ask us. You can put it down in the chat box, in the Q&A box. I'm sorry. So I'm going to be launching the second audience poll. Again, those of you who are joining us on Zoom, you should be able to see it coming up on your screen. And for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, Manjula will be sharing this with you. Um, as with last time, we let the poll run for about half a minute, and I request all of you to again participate in this poll. This really helps us capture kind of your thoughts based after the first two presentations from Smita and Shreya. So I will let it run for another 15 seconds or so. And in the meantime, as I said, if you have any questions, please do put it in the Q&A box. I also see that one of you, Shalini, has raised your hand. If you have a question, could I request you to put it in the Q&A box, because this is going to be a short Q&A session. If not, I'll invite you to ask your question at the second Q&A session that we have in today's webinar, which will happen a little later in the session. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results with all of you. So the first question is, which of the following aspects of professionalism is most important to you? And you had to select one answer. And so the highest answer was reliability. 34% of you said reliability. This was followed by respect, competence, 11% of you said accountability and etiquette together. 2% of you said demeanor. None of you felt that appearance was the most important aspect of professionalism. Moving on to the second question, which was, which of the following most accurately describes your experience with role models and mentors? You have to select one. The top ranking answer was, I have many role models, but few good mentors. And then this was followed by about 30% of you who said you have some good mentors, but few role models. So that is something to think about, and maybe hopefully this session has helped you think about that again. So with this, I'm going to stop sharing the poll and I'm going to move to the question and answer session. So I'll read out the question and answers, and I will then invite Smita and Shreya to answer them. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so I can see the questions more clearly. So the one question that's come in is, what is the difference between following a role model and copying a role model? And I think, Smita, you alluded to this on your slide. You said, don't copy your role models. So how do you kind of walk that fine line of...
Exactly. It's a very, I guess, very good question. What I meant was that you follow your role models. That means you keep a track of what's happening, how they do different things, how they deal with their failures, how they decide about their next career moves, what opinions they have. But when I say that don't copy them, I mean that, let's say your role model has certain thought process about certain things or certain value systems or certain political angles. It doesn't mean that you have precisely, you start following that particular political party, let's say, just because your role model follows, or you start following your role model based on their appearance. No, that's not what I meant. What I meant, let's say Indra Nui, I follow her for her courage, for the confidence that she with the confidence that she presents herself. So that's what I meant by following versus copying a role model. I hope that answers.
Thanks, Smita. So I think we'll take one more question, and then the rest of the questions we'll come back to them in the longer
Yes.
Q&A session. So this question has come in many different flavors and forms, but the essence of the question is, how do you select a mentor? Uh,
I
so
know.
Smita, Shreya.
Shreya, you want to go first?
Okay. But I see somebody has asked also that does the mentor select you or you select your mentor?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I guess it's important to understand that this is a two-way relationship. It's impossible to go to someone and say, hey, you be my mentor from now on. It has to be a relationship of trust both ways. And it usually takes time. So I think when you start approaching someone, I would say don't go with the set belief that this person has to become my mentor. I think it helps to have a broad network to begin with. When you come to know a lot of people, you can understand which of these people you would probably gel with, or who probably can occupy that role in your life if you're given that chance. So yeah, that's my take on it.
No, I guess that's very perfectly answered, Shreya. I really don't think there's anything more that I would want to add. But yes, maybe one thing. There are times when even mentors end up selecting you, especially, let's say you are a good student and your teacher or any other teacher in the department or institute is observing you, and this teacher feels that there is this one thing that you can add which will add value to your journey. And you never know, even this person would start giving you advice at different platforms. So it's not always that it's that you go after looking after a mentor. There are times when even mentors end up selecting, but that's rare. Usually it's the other way around, that the mentee is looking out for a mentor. And as Shreya said, it's a journey. It's not an overnight thing that happens, that you meet one person and you say, well, be my mentor, and put forth your whole career journey. It takes time, and again, I said that you need to invest time and energy to build this relationship.
Thanks, Mita. Thanks, Shreya. I think we'll continue with the session, and there are a lot of interesting questions that have come in the Q&A box. They'll be addressed down the line. So with this, I'll hand it over to you, Shreya, for the next part of our session.
Thank you, Shantala. We will now be hearing from our two special guest speakers, and they are both well established in the field of core facility management, and this tends to be a career path that's not talked about as often, but it offers some really exciting possibilities. So first, we will hear from Dr. Nirpendra Singh. Nirpendra did his PhD from University of Delhi, and then he started working as an application research scientist at the Central Instrumentation Facility of Delhi University South Campus. There he was in charge of the proteomics core facility. And in 2013, he moved to Regional Center of Biotechnology, RCB, where he was responsible for the establishment and operation of their Advanced Technology Platform Center, or ATPC. And ATPC has 6 different technology platforms, and it provides support and solutions to researchers from academia, startups, and industry. So over to you, Nirpendra. We would love to hear about your career journey. And Nirpendra, you can share your slides now, and you will have 15 minutes from now. And please unmute yourself.
Could you unmute yourself, Nirpendra? I think you're still muted.
Yeah. So am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Shreya, and thank you, Team India Bioscience, for giving me this opportunity to present my career journey. And okay, so now with this first slide of mine, I would like to, this is kind of disclaimer which I want to put in the first slide, where there you can see there are at least 5 people you can see which are trying to find out what the object is, and these people are, if they don't have, they cannot see it. So then if there's an elephant and they want to see what part of elephant they are touching, so they will explain its object in a different way. So if somebody wants to touch it, is touching as a trunk, then it will say that's okay, this elephant is kind of trunk. But if somebody is touching the ear pinna, it will say that okay, this is a kind of ear pinna. So it's a kind of interpretation what you are in contact with. So I will only tell about what I have gone through, and decision would be yours. So this is kind of disclaimer. So I work in an Advanced Technology Platform Center. It is a technology platform center established by Regional Center for Biotechnology. So as far as my background is concerned, I did my post-graduation from Allahabad University. Then I did my PhD from Delhi University. And after completing my PhD, I moved to University of Delhi South Campus, as I mentioned, and then moved to Regional Center for Biotechnology. So this is things which I did for my education. And that's a career goal. At the time of my graduation and post graduation, I was my mentor always motivated me to do some research, and that too in a very specific area of immunology and neurosciences. I don't know for what reason, but later on I also like the field of immunology. But something else has been planned for me. So when I joined my PhD, I have been, and anyway, I wanted to do some kind of proteomics, and in neurosciences, but end up having PhD in viral gene silencing. And after that, how I landed up in this, submitted my PhD. At that time, there was a gap of PhD submission and Viva. So I thought, okay, why not try a new platform, new career avenue. So at that time, there was an opening in proteomics facility in South Campus. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try, because my expertise that time was in mass spectrometry. So I joined there and start to facility management as my full and final career avenue. So all these things which you are seeing as a decision making process, like identifying a problem and identifying and then weighing the evidence, choose from alternative, all these things are pretty good on the presentation. But at the time of when I was doing my PhD, at that time there is no platform like IndiaBioscience which can tell you about, okay, these are the career avenues which you can go ahead with it. So kind of thing we don't know about that time. So these other than research, other than postdoc, but other could be a career avenue. But right now, at least thanks to IndiaBioscience, that we at least students come to know, okay, these are other than research, you have some other works you can do to support science, to do what you want to do. So like during my PhD, as I mentioned, I was allotted to a medicinal chemistry lab. So there, when I went there, I could see a lot of chemical chemistry and equipment lying there, and I was basically a cell biologist. So I thought, okay, what to do next? So when I talked to my lab mates, they told, okay, whatsoever you want, you need to establish this. Then I started establishing cell culture facility, protein production, antibody facilities, with the definitely with the help of your friends and your campus core facility here also. And I joined, it's a time of 2008 and 2009, I believe. So there, when what I feel is, I felt at that time there was not very, I could not find out so many core facilities which are based on the principle of shared resource platform. So and when we were establishing that time, I really wanted to know how to build a facility, what should be the mode of operation, and how to run it. So this was a very difficult process at that time, and we don't have any model to replicate. And but all these problems has helped me to grow, because that time, if nothing is there for you to replicate, at least you will create your own model. You will learn from your own mistakes. So that's what we did. I did it, and I think. So what are the skills which landed me into it? As I mentioned, I did my post graduation in geology. My specialization was cell biology. Then I did my pre-PhD thing, that I was 2.5 years at CDRI Lucknow. So there I did. I was in the parasitology department doing a lot of drug screening, animal trials for vaccines. And then I did my PhD in protein biochemistry and mass spectrometry. And then after that, I landed into a core facility where I learned finance, operation, HR, lab management, emerging technologies, whatsoever I could grasp, and all mixing all together. These are, if you mix all together, all these skills, you will turn up into a person who will have a kind of facility management job. So that's things what I learned during my stint. So what is needed in a core facility job is, if you wanted to join a core facility, you need, what you need is extensive hands-on expertise in any area, or any one area of shared facility or core facilities. So what basically needed is, like, what we are looking when I'm hiring person, what I look is, a person should have at least have a post graduation degree, and that is the entry level position, and with 1 or 2 year of experience. This experience doesn't need that experience would be in a very specific niche of the technology, but that person should have a lab exposure and know how the biological experiments. That's all. But if you wanted to jump into a little bit senior position, kind of facility scientist position, so you require a PhD degree with extensive hands-on experience in any area of high-end technologies. And when I say this expertise, that means you should have a hands-on experience. It's not that you did some work which somebody might else have done it for you, and you just analyzed it. So those kind of expertise is not very handy when you are looking looking for a job in a core facility position. If I have to give an example, suppose we always look for a pilot, not for a passenger in a Boeing. So this kind of expertise we are looking for. And if you have a PhD in 4 or 5 years of experience in operation and hands-on expertise, and at least one or two or three technology platform, then you can be a technology manager. With this, if you have more than 4 or 5 year experience with the experience and technologies in HR, technical collaborations, administration, then you are eligible for a facility director and all those kinds. So these are the career revenues present in the core facility right now in India. I think Atif might have some other things to add, but as far as I know, these are the career revenues which can be pursued in technology facility management. So status of it, talk about status of the core facilities in India. In last decade, DBT and DST has invested generously for establishment of core facility. And a few of the, before 2005 or 6, I think only see few of the CSIR labs and IITs have their sophisticated advanced instrumentation facility. And they have a very good system for the manpower recruitment and retention. But DBT has started this thing in the last 10 to 15 years and is still trying to negotiate the term and condition of operation and running costs. So I will come to this point in the last slide. And career revenues in these places are pretty ample, because now these days maintaining a bigger equipment and technology is a very difficult task. So everybody, most of the departments are doing is they are trying to put everything in a shared resource platform, so that maintenance cost and the management cost can be reduced. So there's no shortage of job in this field, unless until if you only think that you should be an expert in your own domain. So if you are doing a PhD and you are doing a MSc master's things, you should have expertise in whatsoever you are doing it. You should not like that. You should definitely have a broad vision of your work, but you should also have expertise in some core technologies. So then you can think about this coming into a core facility business. So if I have like how I spend my days, I mean 1 hour I normally discuss with my facilities and the facility scientists about how I work, how there's any problem in the facility and how many works has come for it. And then some billing and accounting processes are there. Then a lot of documents need to be reported, and a report needs to be prepared for the departments. Then occasional presentations and for the students, training of new candidate and evaluation. These are the keep on going process. Planning for the workshop, that is also keep on going process. Discussion and meeting with the institute official stakeholders, administrative work. So there's a lot of administrative work involved if you are going to come into this field, and that requires a lot of hiring manpower, then rotation of the manpower, appraisal, stores, and so many other things comes up in between. And I have jotted down only few of the things. And at the end, if you get some time, you spend that time to read your interesting article. And challenges of running a core facility now these days, what I could feel is arrangement of fund from funding agency. As there is no long-term plan for such core facilities. What is happening here is most of the funding agency provide a fund for establishment of core facility, and thinking that okay, this facility will become a self-sustainable in next couple of years. But actually, this create a lot of problem, because in the long term you end up having a lot of maintenance cost, which is making that facility not very sustainable. So, and then hiring of best talent with limited resources, training and retention of talent. So this is again a very tricky issue, where you need to motivate and keep your manpower in a trained condition and retain that manpower after 3-4 years of contract. And the fourth point is to keep your staff motivated, which is not very uncommon in the lab space, because since you are working in a core facility job, and you really don't do a lot of individual research. So you do work for a technology platform, you develop a method for somebody else. So in that condition, keeping your staff motivated is a very difficult situation. But yes, that's not that my presentation, and I will hand over to Atif. Thank you. Atif?
Thank you so much, much, Nirpendra. That was a very nice glimpse into the working of your day-to-day work as a facility manager. And next we will have Atif. Atif earned his PhD in biological sciences and bioengineering from IIT Kanpur, and he currently manages the technology platform services vertical at CCamp in Bangalore. And he also liaises with industry for technology licensing for the Discovery to Innovation Accelerator program, which is also at CCamp. Before joining CCamp, Atif worked at Piramal Enterprises Limited in Mumbai, where he was involved in vitro and preclinical studies for small molecule-based drug discovery. So over to you, Atif. You can start sharing your slides now. And again, I would request you to speak for 15 minutes.
Atif, you're still muted. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, good afternoon.
We can hear you.
Quick AV check. You can hear me and see my slides?
Yes, all good.
Good. Thank you so much, and so good to be here. Thank you, India Bioscience team, for inviting me and giving this opportunity to share whatever I have learned so far. But as you would see, my presentation says what I'm learning. And I would actually especially thank the speaker before me, Dr. Nirpendra Singh, for laying out uh, the whole aspect of facility management so elusively, which has made my job very easy, I should confess. And I probably not be adding to what he's saying rather than seconding his thoughts, that whatever he said that is actually the real life scenario. And what I will try to do is basically expand on the thoughts that he has shared and maybe share a few perspectives from how it's shaping up in India and globally. So thank you, Shreya, for giving the brief about me. Quickly, I'll run it back again. I did my master's in biochemistry from Aligarh Muslim University, which is my hometown. Moved to IIT Kanpur for a PhD in life sciences, which is which was what I learned earlier. Then moved to drug discovery right after PhD. Again, complete pivot from what I had learned. But these are all learning experiences which gave me some ideas on where we should be going. And then about 6 years ago, I landed up in this place called C Camp in Bangalore, where I am now working as a business development manager. Now, you would imagine my title says business development, but I don't have a business degree. Well, in the business of science, this is okay. And as Nipender Singh told before, that you need to be knowing technology, or you need to be understanding what you're doing in terms of a technology field, and then you can build from there on. Uh, so I'll share a quick glimpse on what we do at CCamp, and that's perhaps build a bit of more perspective. So CCamp is a organization set up about 10 years ago by DBT, which again my previous speaker said that it is collating technology for facilities and making them available and accessible to researchers across the spectrum of research, which is be it academic, startups, or established companies. So in CCAM, we do three things primarily. The third vertical is very new. The first one is where we offer the technology platforms or the core research services to any researcher for coming and using it as a tool. Then we have a lot of work that we do with budding entrepreneurs, right from people who are students all the way to people who are in mid-career and who have had as well as people who are serial entrepreneurs. So the idea here is that we work with students to nurture and encourage them to take up bio entrepreneurship, start their own projects, make a startup, take it to the next level. And there are some very beautiful examples from our startups, which are 200 plus as of we speak, where students have made a startup and made it all the way to a successful company, to mid-sized companies who are now expanding. There are programs and avenues for each one of this startups, but that's not what we will be discussing today. Something which we also do is translation of academic research into products and uh, solutions, uh, for which we constantly engage with industry. Uh, However, since the session today is on the core facility and its management, uh, in CCAMP, we offer these technology platforms which are available in our cluster. There is a cluster of 3 institutions, which is called the Bangalore Life Science Cluster, uh, which has National Center for Biological Sciences, NCBS, a key premier research institution on fundamental life science in India, and perhaps it has a global edge in terms of the research output. Then we have the only federally funded stem cell institute in the country called the Institute of Stem Cell Sciences. And then we have CCAMP, the Center for Cellular and Molecular Platforms, with the sole purpose, started 10 years ago by DPT, to offer access to the technology platforms on the campus. Of course, over the time, we have evolved to include entrepreneurship development. So in each of these core facilities, we have colleagues who have uh, a key technology as their core expertise area. They are the ones who are technical competent, have the technical competence, expertise, and they have the in-depth knowledge about that technology and its various applications in research questions. Uh, in the interest of time, I'll not go into details of each one of them, but happy to answer now or offline. Uh, but the reason why I'm bringing the concept of a technology uh, lead scientist is that that's one person who leads the facility, but then there are people who are associated in the facility as the technology associates and assistants. Their job is to help run the facility, managing its scientific aspects, its operational aspects, and also a bit of financial aspects. So, in a core facility, as you would imagine, it's also a structure where you could join in as an entry level scientist, as an associate or as an assistant. And typical requirement for that is a master's degree in an area of life science, with preferably an experience, but if not, usually that's not a problem. The ability and willingness to learn, and demonstrative ability that one can rely on this, which was actually brought in by Shreya in her presentation, that you should give a confidence that you could be relied upon as a professional when you are being hired in to handle work in a research facility, a core facility. Remember, this is a facility which works for so many clients, and the clients could be people who are your next door labs, to people who are external clients whom we have never seen, discussed over phones or done email exchanges. Yet you are working and engaging with them to offer them a solution on a particular technology platform. So that's the kind of career paths one can look at in core facility management. Uh, what I wanted to share is how this evolved globally and how it is shaping up in India. Uh, this is just how a core facility could be connected with so many researchers across the country. And this is an example from CCAMP. I'm sure ATPC has a similar example to show. And it's something which is here listed down as the number 180 plus, and these are the publications that come out. So a lot of people who contribute significantly from the facility to a publication uh, get acknowledged and often become co-authors in the research that has been done on behalf of the client. So this is also to keep people motivated, engaged, and as well excited about the science that's happening in the facility. Right. So just to give a quick snapshot on how this core facility business or core facilities look in let's say the example of Europe. In Europe, European Molecular Biology, I just took the screenshot from the EMBL website. They again have so many core facilities which are available for again researchers across the world. Typically, this is an example from Europe, and this is based in Germany. Again, the structure is very similar. So when CCAMP was conceptualized and when it was coming up as one of the earliest kind of core facility professionally managed, this was perhaps a model that was taken up and and sort of try to replicate in India with an Indian scenario in mind. That's very important to remember that even if you have a role model or a successful example, how do you replicate in your settings? So hopefully we have learned something, I think, or two. Uh, this is a scenario from US. This is a page from University of Nebraska Medical Center. Uh, there's a reason why I have chosen this page, although most of the clusters in the US have these core facilities which they manage together. Uh, Again, you would see that at the bottom of it there are different facilities that one can access for doing their research, whether it's fundamental research or applicable research. The reason I chose this page is because the current head of or the director of the proteomics core is a colleague of ours from CCAN, Dr. Vikas Kumar. He did his PhD in India, then went for a postdoc in the US, came back and established and scaled up the proteomics facility at CCAM, stayed with us for a couple of years, and then got an excellent opportunity as a facility manager in the US. So he went there and then he moved to become the director of the core facility at University of Nebraska Medical Center. So that's also a trajectory one can follow if people are looking at what next if I am in a core facility business. Um, so now if you come to the Indian scenario, how it's shaping up, um, as the previous speaker said, that there are IITs and a couple of CSIR institutes, VST had facilities and they were available, but a lot of people did not know about their existence or how to access. So now, in the recent time, there have been efforts by the ministries and departments to bring these things on a platform where you can, uh, one can find out where are the resources if they don't know. One such example is for the iSTEM portal, which is managed by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India. You could look for a particular instrument and you could find various locations where it is. For example, I just look for ultracentrifuge. These many number of places showed up, and you click them, and you will find how to access and go about contacting the facility. DBT from its side is also doing something which is called the Sahaj portal. You could again do something similar, look up for the instrument or place, various ways in which you could search. So I search something, and well, you could see that this is available at CCAN. So that's the Indian scenario at this moment, how the community of research facilities are shaping up. And therefore, there definitely are opportunities both for people who are looking to get their work done, to people who are looking to step into the roles as facility scientists or managers or business managers. What's also opening up is a rather relatively new field of facility business management, where you would be dealing not with the exact science part, but how to get business for your facility, how to reach out to more people and manage the finances, a role that I and our team play at CPR. So with this, I'll stop here and thank everybody, especially the organizers in the bioscience, and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Atif, for that insight into both the global and Indian scenario for this field right now. And I would request all our participants that if you have any questions for either Nirpendra or Atif or any of us, please put them in the Q&A box, and we will be. And if you want to ask your question live, you are welcome to raise your hand, and we will get in touch with you. So let's start with and Nitpendra, if you could turn on your video and unmute yourself during this time, that would be great. So let's start with a very general question from Srushti, who's asking, what is preferred in the scientific community, a generalist or a specialist? And perhaps we can start with how it applies to your specific profession, that is core facility management. So what is the general idea? Are generalists preferred, or is specialized knowledge more valuable? Atif, would you like to go first? I'm afraid you're still muted.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah, hi. Good. So it's a really good question, and it has answers for both. So in a core facility business, when you are looking at the science part of it, when you're looking at the a particular facility, a specialist is of course desirable. Given that you know in and out of the technology, and you would interact with people and offer them solutions around that technology. But if you are in a position like mine where you have to interact with so many people, understand their science, and then communicate it, channelize them to the right kind of right set of colleagues within your organization, a generalist approach is also is perhaps more desirable. So it really depends on what kind of roles you are envisioning for yourself, and that has to suit with the personality that goes with you. If you ask me, I would be a more generalist, but I guess Dipendra would be able to tell a little bit more from the technology side since he's a mass spec specialist.
Yeah, I was a mass spec specialist. Now I'm managing a facility, so it's a very difficult question. Right? As you mentioned clearly, it depends upon in what role you are looking for. If you are looking for a technology platform and wanted to run the technology platform, then definitely we require a specialist, because it's very difficult to train somebody in a higher role for a core facility. But for that, we require somebody has to be trained on either in their PhD or in their postdoc or in some other position, so that that person doesn't need a thorough training on when he joins a facility. Otherwise, if you have, if you are starting at a basic level or somebody as a research associate, then definitely training can be provided. But for the top positions and scientist positions, it's very difficult to train. So what question was, specialist or journalist? So my suggestion would be, if you are doing a PhD and all, so that is better to, you should have a capability to zoom in and zoom out. So that means you should know what, when you wanted to go deeper into any technology field and extract your answer and then come back again to your broader vision. So I think that's what I wanted to add to if.
Thank you for that take. So an anonymous attendee wants to know, is there any particular degree that is needed for entering this field of facility management, and depending upon the position you're at? So Nirpendra, maybe you touched
Yeah.
upon this in your presentation as well. So
Yeah.
maybe
So
I can answer this.
So right now there's this field is coming up, and I don't see any management degrees needed for entering into this field. But as soon as this more or more people will come up, I think then competition will go up, and then everybody will be looking for this kind of management degree. But my personal take is you don't require a management degree, rather than you require a management skill to run the code facility. And it is not like that you only require a management skill. Along with the management skill, you require a scientific skill also. So this kind of coursework is not present in India right now. I don't know if it is available anywhere in the abroad. So Atif might tell if he wants to add something. Okay, maybe then Shreya, you can.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I was having trouble unmuting myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have really answered the question, and I would second that thing. And citing my own example, that as I said in the beginning, my job title says this, but I don't have a formal um, training in business management. Uh, but it also depends on how you envision yourself and how you can adapt to a scenario, and also the opportunity you get. So I should mention that this is opportunity that I got in this organization. So C can.
Atif, you are unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just again touched it. Sorry. Yeah, so as I said, opportunity and also the willingness of the organization to help you with the process is also something that you could keep in mind when you are exploring options.
Uh, just a second. We see some of you are raising your hands for live questions. Let's take one more question from the Q&A box. That's a question from Mohammed, who wants to know what's the difference between a facility manager and a facility operator or a lab operator. Are these different roles and trajectories?
So, who wants to add? Atif, would you want to elaborate, or should I go first?
You go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So facility operator, as you say, facility operator, we call it a technology associate, a technology assistant. So this is the person who actually work on the instrument and get an instruction for the facility scientist. And so this is the kind of entry level positions what you are talking about. And the facility scientist is the person who normally develop a workflow, and facility operator is the person who follows that workflow and perform the experiments. So that's all I think I can do. And then yeah, facility manager is somebody who is taking care of the finance and the management and that hiring, recruitment, and all other bigger aspects of this code facility. So it is altogether a different portfolio where the facility manager don't have to do don't have to take part into scientific work of the facility. But facility scientists and facility operator definitely need to discuss the aspect with the customers or the users. So, Atif, you want to add something?
I think just one aspect. So you should imagine a core facility as a as a as a unit, a business unit, and like a business or industry, you would have a hierarchical structure. I mean, not in any other sense, except that based on how you entered and where you are in that, you would be given different responsibilities. So an operator would be the one who would, I would say, an entry level position where we would really be hands on all the time, operating equipment or doing the experiments. Remember, not all facilities are equipment centric. There are facilities like a transgenic facilities where you have to make transgenic animals, or if you have to protein facility, you make proteins or do assays, so on and so forth. So an operator level or associate level is where you really do the work. The natural progression is then to a position which is where people you have a team which does it, and there's a team which can coordinate, and you do coordinate the work of that team. And so there's a movement that happens just like a typical industry, that after gaining experience, hands-on experience of a couple of years, you move on to the next position within the organization.
Thanks,
That's it.
Atif, and thanks, Nirpendra. I think we'll take two questions from the audience participants themselves. Two of you have raised your hand. So we'll start with Dasari. I have given you permission to talk. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? And Shrishti, you will be next.
So I'm Srishti. Um, yeah, so I kind of have two questions in the similar net. One is that basically I'm into science communication. So my question is, if you have an idea, should we just start right away, or is a formal degree or education preferred? Because I believe in being a generalist and acquiring skills more than a degree. And secondly, are there any organizations that back up such ventures? Because we know there are a lot of organizations there that are backing ventures in research areas. I mean, the ones that come out with products, but science communication is a bit different. So, yeah, that is my question.
I think Smita, would you like to share?
Yeah, I thought I would just add, it's a good question, Shrishti. I guess government has started with few fellowships for science communication, but there is no such program as of now, as far as my knowledge is there, which would support a startup kind of thing in the field of science communication. It's a great idea, and I really feel that such a program should start. But as of now, there isn't any. Though there are good number of science communication fellowships that have started now.
Thanks, Smita. Maybe we can take a couple more questions from the Q&A box now. Yeah, so there's a question about how can students increase the technological aspects of their training or their knowledge, especially when they are still in their undergraduate or postgraduate years and perhaps don't have access to a very sophisticated laboratory. So Atif and Nirpendra, would you like to comment on that? Perhaps Atif can go first.
Thanks. So I would suggest there's nothing better than doing it. So one can, if they are in undergraduate, they can go to the nearest laboratory during their breaks. I think undergraduates still have break semester between semesters. There's a mid-semester breaks. You can go intern at a place where you where they heavily use a certain technology. This would be typically your academic research groups in the universities, research institutes. And you can go and tell and volunteer saying that I would like to learn and maybe help you with uh, with some experiments that involve so and so technology. Uh, of course, that's a such different question that you don't know at that time what technology, but maybe you can just talk to people. Uh, if I can use the word, you can go bug a few researchers or senior students and say, "Hey, I want to learn." I mean, typically people pick up the buzzwords and say, "Yeah, can I learn genomics or can I learn CRISPR, for example?" So you can just go basically show your inclination to a nearest laboratory and try and understand what they are doing. As you would gradually move to masters, you'll perhaps be able to narrow that search and say, I now know this technology is something which interests me, and can I learn a little bit more? Uh, so that's how you could be more than what you have learned in theory in the undergraduate. I understand still it is undergraduate is more of a taught course, and uh, practical is very limited to few hours a week. So best is to go to the nearest research lab. You can actually go to places like pathology laboratories. Of course, take uh, adequate precautions. They also use some good equipment, but they would be loving to have some volunteers come and handle and work with them. Then you will learn things.
There's one more place, like as Atif has mentioned, because now these days a lot of startups are coming up with a good ideas. So, and startups also encourage graduate students and postgraduate students to join their journey. and they give a good exposure to the students, and there you can be the part of that journey, and if you like it, maybe you can continue there. Otherwise you can choose your own path, but that will give you a good exposure in this field. Like in our RCB cluster, we have a bioincubator. There's a lot, at least 29-30 companies are there, and they are always looking for people who wanted to contribute as a volunteer, and who wanted to do an internship, or who wanted to do some kind of summer project. So they allow them, and at least you can get a exposure of that. And I'm not saying that you will get 100% time on the technology platform, but at least you will learn something new, and you might get 20-30% of exposure of the technology. It will help you to find out whether you really want to do this, or you want to do something else. So that could be again a point which you should consider.
Oh, just if one more point, which is directly not related to the question, but there's sometimes a lot of emphasis on a technology or learning the, how to operate the machine. I personally believe it's the other way around. You should be interested in understanding the process of doing something, a process of uh, asking a question and how to find the answer, and the process is more or less similar to any technology. So if you are invested in understanding the process of asking question and finding solutions, the next level of expertise and deep dive can help you in a particular technology, but that level of analytical capability will help you anywhere as well. So
Yeah.
maybe this part I'll add this.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think just following on that, Janvi has asked, at CCamp, do you provide hands-on training on various technologies like next-gen sequencing, mass spectroscopy, etc.? And I would ask about RCB as well. Do you provide training?
Yes, so at CCamp, we have a very thriving uh, ecosystem of providing technology trainings. Uh, so these are short-term trainings of 3 to 5 days, depending on the level of course. So there we have two levels of courses: the basic and advanced courses, where a particular technology platform is the core of that course. For example, in March, we have a core, of course, this is at this point a online course on genomics, an aspect of genomics, which is the variant analysis. So we do, short answer is we do offer short-term training programs on technology platforms. They could be different flavors depending on what is the specialized application on that technology. So there would be some subsets. So yeah, and these are hands-on, usually hands-on, except for the last year due to COVID pandemic restrictions. They're online at this moment, where you come, take up a problem, and then look for its answer the next 2-3 days.
At RCB also, we always organize at least 1 or 2 training program on each technology platform. So in RCB also we have mass spectrometry, flow cytometry, optical imaging, electron microscopy, and protein production. So every year we always have 1 to 2 training programs, and that too of 2 to 4 days. And depending upon the nature of the workshop, sometimes we have a basic workshop on the basic technologies, and sometimes we have advanced courses for 5 days or so. And here we call all the students from academia, and we always try to get an expert from all over the academia and industry also. So normally we organize those kind of trainings.
No,
So right.
Shreya, if I can ask one question here.
Sure. Go ahead,
Okay.
Smita.
So this question is again for both Atif and Nirpendra. Just wanted to ask regarding the career progression once someone gets into a facility management role. What's a typical career progression chart that looks like? Or is there one? Atif, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I had taken an example back when I was telling the global scenario of a colleague who, as I said, he joined as a facility manager, as a scientific manager. He established it, scaled it up, and was with us for a couple of years. A natural progression would be to go one step further, and that is if you could manage more facilities. So that's something which actually is happening in our cluster. We have Dr. Krishnamurthy, who helps the cluster facilities as its head of the facilities. He looks after 17 facilities at the time as its top box, if I would say. So that's the progress, right from uh, associate to uh, manager level. But then there is always an opportunity for people in the facilities to pivot and go uh, to industry, where they could then have the industrial career trajectory. Again, here this is from the real life example at CCAM. Colleagues who had joined at associate levels, they have been taken up by companies like Biocon, Pfizer, Waters Corporation for their roles. And these were they because now once you are in a facility management role or in an associate role, you have seen the technology up front and close, and also seen a different variety of samples and different variety of experiments that you could do. Then you become extremely invaluable for a company who's looking to hire an expert. And then in fact it's the way companies reach out and would want to take people who are good at their technology to be working with them. So that's another trajectory that you could pivot to at some point. uh, yeah, and in a government sector again, I guess there are positions which are uh, facility management and so on. And at some point you could go into policy level positions as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I have talked about this in my presentation, to retain a manpower, because once you train that manpower, you invest heavily on that manpower, and then after that, there's a lot of challenge for you, because if you have trained that manpower on some specific technology, that person will become what you call is a very valuable in the job market. So industries normally take that person, and then you need to keep yourself open to train a new manpower, because a very because in a core facility, getting a trained manpower is difficult. So you need to start afresh from the basics.
Okay. That helps. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, we had a few questions in our first Q&A session that we said we would come back in the end if we had time. So Smita, an anonymous attendee is asking, is it necessary for a person to be successful or in a top position, let's say, to be your role model?
No, I really don't think so. That person needs to be person needs to be successful or at higher positions. It can be anyone. I'll tell you, maybe I didn't put it there, but this lady Thimama, who's planted n number of trees in southern India, is I guess another role model I have. No one knew about her till some time back when media actually started talking about her. So it's not necessary that the person has to be at a very senior position or at a senior, in a senior role to be a role model. It can be anyone, any person whom you admire for the qualities that they possess, and you want to emulate those in your life. So from that lady Timama, I guess what I had, I'm just using my own personal examples here, but what I've learned is that, just continue to work tirelessly, selflessly. So it's these qualities that you end up learning from your role models.
Thanks, Smita, that adequately answers that. And I think I'll just sort of jump off that and ask Atif and Nirpendra, have you had any mentors, such mentors or role models in your lives or in your careers who have helped you reach where you are today? And if you would like to speak about them.
I definitely had a mentor, but role model in career facility management is really I didn't have it. At that time, I don't see any role model in that field. But yes, mentor I had it because at that happened during my first job when I was in South Campus. So there were the professors who usually because once somebody start motivating you, you consider him as a mentor, and then this relation, as Smita mentioned, this relations takes time to build up. So it took time for me to get into this mentor-mentee relationships, and at every time when I have some kind of a problem not related to the science, with any kind of issues, he is very motivating and very supportive. So he is always there. Atif.
Right. Okay. So if you see, role model is somebody you would want to emulate, and necessarily you don't have to look very far. For me, I consider two people as my role models. One is, of course, my father. Uh, you would say that's like it's a no-brainer. No, it's not, because then you know him as your father, but you see how he might have grown from where he came from. That would give you a an anchor and say, okay, let me try and emulate if I can do something similar. And the other one is actually very tangential. I would say but the other one is Rahul Dravid. I'm not a big cricket fan, but I like him. I consider him as a role model because no matter what, he was consistent. He was there. He was dependable. I don't know if he broke so many records or made so many records, not sure. But the reason I consider him as a role model is he is there under pressure, performing his job, sometimes to the extent of being a very boring person who's just stopping the ball and passing the puck to the other person who's striking and hitting a six at his, I don't know, his expense perhaps. But he was there for Team India when Team India needed.
Exactly.
That's my role model. And of course, mentors are aplenty. Every place I go, like, I catch somebody and basically bug them enough to let, let them relent. But people are much nicer. They're very, very kind. You just have to approach, and usually people are so kind to become your mentors. You can reach out. I do reach out to people who taught me 20 years ago, and you can just talk to them, and perhaps sometimes they don't give you any solution. Just listening and an ear and a shoulder is good enough for a lot of things. So there's so many, from teachers in my undergraduate to my previous boss in the last company to the current boss to some of the people whom I worked in my PhD were seniors to me. And I'm consider myself as fortunate to still having uh, relationship with them.
Thank you, Atif. I'll just ask two very quick questions and then we will wrap up. The first one is for you, Smita, and the other one is for Atif and Nirpendra. So, Smita, one of our attendees is asking, are there any established mentorship networks or groups in India, formal mentorship networks that students can approach? And Atif and Nirpendra, after that, we'd like to ask you, can you name one most rewarding aspect of your job for you right now? What is the most rewarding aspect of it? So, Smita, first.
Okay. So I guess there is no such, at least again to my knowledge, there is no such formal network established by, let's say, the government or institutions. But if you go to social media, there are multiple networks that are out there. I'm part of PhD careers. There is PhD network, PhDs in India. I know a couple of people who are planning to start such networks, or platforms where people can interact. There would be mentors who can come talk. Regarding, let's say, science communication network, we at IndiaBioscience, we have a network on our Discuss platform where where there are mentors and other peers, you can discuss, put in your query. But if you'll ask me of any formal mentoring platform, no, I don't think so, unless anyone else is aware of and they want to add.
Yeah, that is my understanding as well, Smita. But
Can I add here?
Yash,
I don't think a mentoring network will perhaps help. It just doesn't work when you don't know somebody and that they're in a formal setup or in a organized fashion. Mentoring perhaps is the most inorganized or
Yes,
organic thing.
I
yeah,
Yeah,
agree.
and it has to be like that. Your mentor is your mentor, and you have cultivated the relationship, or they have cultivated. My mentor cannot be Smita's mentor, and but
I
yeah. So that way, I would say you just have to figure it out and maybe uh,
No,
catch people.
I
Right?
agree. I agree, Atif, to your answer. But also at times, some of these informal networking platforms or groups help clear some doubts.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
you, if you're lucky and if you've posed right questions in that network or that platform, you may end up finding a mentor, and then you can cultivate, as you said. Uh, but being part of these various different networks is actually very nice way also to find a right mentor.
Exactly. Being part of networks, you will find a
Yes,
mentor. Yeah, that's
yes.
yes. So, yeah, moving to our final question. Nirpendra, maybe I can
Yeah.
ask you first. What is the most rewarding part of your job for you?
So most rewarding part is a very tricky question and a tough one also. But what I like about this job career is like when people talk about the facility, the help you have created for their own their research. Like if I know few of the at least 13 or 15 people who has done their PhD, and they always say that okay, when they have started their PhD, they didn't have resources to do the things, and they need to roam around and find out where they can do this research. But after that, they wrote a big paragraph about how their our facilities have helped them to do all those things in a very timely fashion and everything. So that is actually very satisfying to see that at least you help those for 15 or 16 people to grow further. So this is a very interesting thing. And not only that, they whenever they go outside, also this happens with me several times. You won't know that, but you will come to know by somebody else that okay, this guy was saying so good things about your facility, about you, and that saying that okay, these people have helped you in some form. And so this is a very interesting and very rewarding. So this is the thing which is satisfying also. And maybe Atif might have something else to add.
I think I would just add on to what Nipendra said. In core facility, you're basically facilitating somebody else's research for an answer or answer to a question. And if you are able to uh, help them go from one step to another, from an idea to an experiment, and that experiment yields a result, which has helped them move from their first stated goal to achieving it, to sometimes we work with startups also, and companies also, and if they are developing a product, they have a problem, and one of our technologies platforms or experts has helped them cross the barrier, have have their product move to the next level. That's a satisfying feeling that you could play a small role, but a role in a larger scheme of things, and something came out for uh, for as a research output or as a product, and that's perhaps the most uh, good feeling that you will get working here.
Thank you so much. And we are running a little over time, so we will move on now. We have a few announcements. Uh, to all our participants, we have a number of career resources on our website, India Bioscience. There are videos, there are podcasts, there is this book called Disha, which outlines a number of career paths and speaks in detail about them. And our podcast series, India Bio Speaks, where we have conducted interviews with science professionals, again from a variety of fields, about their work. So we invite you to check them out. And we would be very happy to receive your feedback on this session, and the link will come up on your screen. Please give us your feedback, and we will have one more session in this Crafting Your Career series after this. That is going to be a slightly different one, where we are going to sort of integrate everything we have learned in these past 5 sessions, as well as have discussions on the broader topic of professional development. So you can save your spot for this webinar using this link. And until we meet next time, please stay safe, stay engaged, stay connected. And I would request all the panelists to stay back for a group photo. And to all of our other attendees, thank you so much for being here today. We will see you next time, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.